Ooh, that looks tasty.
Welcome, folks. Today, the Hungry Gamer is back with another episode of Boards and Brews, and today we have Alex Radcliffe from BoardGameCo joining us. Say hello,
Hello,
Alex.
hello. Hi, everyone. I got my brew coffee today because, well, I'm more of a coffee person to begin with, but happy to be here. I've been so excited. I've been watching all these, and now I get to drink a little something with you.
And he was very jealous, I have to say. He must have messaged me once asking
Yeah,
if he could come on, like
it
once,
was
damn
hard.
time. But and so he said, so he has coffee today. I actually too. I'm drinking a little coffee because it's actually still the afternoon here where I am, and but though I did go iced coffee just to show how very California I am.
Yeah, it is 40 degrees outside or something like that, and I'm still drinking iced coffee because we don't all make good decisions.
We are here for our episode. So the first question's rapid fire style that everybody gets. Who the crap are you? What is your channel? What is your shtick? And how or why did you get into the reviewer game?
Ooh, you said rapid fire. I don't do rapid fire, but let me try. Let me try. Okay, I am Alex Radcliffe. My channel is Board Game Co. I talk about lots and lots of board games with, I would say, a good heavy focus on Kickstarter games, which was not actually how I got started. It wasn't the point of my channel. It's something I stumbled into. I started doing a channel way back and started with reviews and this and that and the same whatever that everyone else. And then I started talking about the Kickstarter games I was backing and why I was backing them and what was making me not back some games or back other games. And I realized very quickly that that was a type of content that people are gravitating towards, both from a combination of Kickstarter's popular and attractive and fun to talk about, as well as in the fact that I was very often focusing on the financial reason I was or wasn't backing, and people really seem to gravitate towards that. It was never really intended. It's just the way I looked at things, and it became a very big focus on my channel. From there, it evolved over time, and I make sure to diversify my content. My favorite content is actually not Kickstarter. It's topics. It's like talking about just different kind of things like we're doing today. In fact, that's my favorite type of content, just talking about discussions and opinions and having those intellectual, you know, thought out conversations. But that would be, I guess, the closest thing to I have to rapid fire.
And it's interesting you say that because I do well, not as many Kickstarters as you do. I do a
Mhm.
fair amount. Probably in the past it was probably about 60, 70%. Now it's probably about 40, 50%, which is I'm happier with that. I do like
Yep.
getting stuff that's out and done and people can actually get, because every now and then I get someone who they'll say, well, what do you mean I have to give them money now and I can't have it for a year? I'm like, no, 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 that's not true.
Yeah.
It's going to be 2 years. They say it's a year. That's what's going to happen.
Oh man, it's
Um,
yeah. I'm always worried when Kickstarter's in its high months, like let's say November, October last year. Like 80% of my content will be Kickstarter. I actually like it when like this December and January has been very light, and I would say the past 2 months has been a much smaller amount. And I like, I mean, as much as I love Kickstarter and I do love Kickstarter, I like being not just the Kickstarter guy. Well rounded. It's important to be well rounded.
well, all of us with COVID are becoming more well rounded.
Oh, I am indeed. Up 10 pounds in the past year or so.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. All right, but let's jump into what we're starting with. And those of you who have listened or watched before, we usually put this down a little further towards the end. But it was pointed out to me that all the real podcasts start by talking about what it is they've been playing lately at the beginning, not at the end. So for the first time, we're talking about what have you been playing lately, and what's on your table right now.
Okay, so let's start with what's on my table right now because that's actually going to be, and those aren't necessarily the same. Just because it's on my table doesn't mean I've been playing it, sadly. But on
Yeah,
my
absolutely. This is a totally two different questions.
unrelated, so what's on my table right now is going to be a handful of games because I actually have like I have a coffee table and then I have a gaming table with like a few like different areas set up. So I have Pandemic Legacy Season 2 that is on my table, and we are playing that as well. We're going through finishing it off for the second time actually with a different person added in. So I've previously played with my wife, and now we're playing with my wife and one of her friends, and we're down to the last 2 months of the game. So that's set up and playing. I have
Don't
Alter
ruin the world,
Quest.
please.
I'm trying not to. Pandemic has taken on a whole new meaning these days. Like it used to just be this abstract concept and whatever. Let's keep it an abstract concept. Then on the other side of the table, I have Alter Quest, which I've set up. I've read the rules, and then I had to deal with a bunch of prototypes and reviews, and I haven't gotten to the table. And I know you have, and I know you like it, and that's that. I need to get it played. But it's set up. It's been set up since I got it like 2 months ago.
Now, how brave are you? How many characters are you going to take in at once?
Ooh, I was going to start with two because why would I? That seems more intimidating to start with more than that.
Yeah, oh, I think two is actually where it shines the most, because of the synergies. I mean, if you got a really big table, go three or four.
I
Like
have. I
really
don't.
big table.
I don't know if I mean, even with 2, it was pushing it. Like, I have a decently sized table, but managing them from, like, arm's reach, if I wanna reach down the table, whatever it is, I can get 3 or 4. If I want them all within a reasonable space, even 2 was a little hard to make it all fit.
Yeah, it's tough. It's funny. One of the I finished through one of the campaigns completely, um,
Nice.
and towards the end of it, I did one of the quests, which is just a quest everyone could have. It's called like the escape, or I don't know,
Mhm.
something like that. But like you're running, you're trying to get out, and I took that serious. I just ran. By the end, I had 40 minions on that board chasing me, and I only had, and that, you stack those cards
Yep.
out, and I just
Yep.
had huge, just like 3 rows of threat cards on each of the characters, and that was two. I had two characters I was doing, and I left us like, huh, let's never do that again. That was overwhelming.
Yeah, it
Um,
sounds intense. Yes, I and then I have 2 more things, 2 last games that are set up. I have Either Fields set up underneath, one of my tables that I am, like, 6 or 7 dreams in, and I need to just finish that thing, but again, just distracted by other games. And then lastly, the only other game I'm in the middle of right now is gonna be, Tapestry. I'm in the middle of playing Tapestry solo, set up on my table, and I am in currently, I would say in the last 20 minutes of a solo game of Tapestry.
now I'm gonna jump back. So you said you're six dreams or so in on Ether Fields, and you just got to
Yes.
finish that thing. That
Yep.
doesn't seem to add up. Isn't that like 80 hours of gameplay you need to go through?
Sure. So I don't actually know the number of dreams. I think in the core set that I'm saying the core before you get into expansions or wave two or whatnot, I think there's roughly 30 dreams. I'm just making that number up based on like numbers I've seen on cards, but I think it's somewhere in that range. And between the way the dreams are structured and the way the turn structure is structured, I think 30 dreams probably is in the range of 50 to 100 hours or something like that. So I don't actually know the quantity, but I don't know. I mean, when I say finish it up, to be very clear, I didn't mean I'm 6 or 7 dreams in and I have like 1 or 2 left to go. I meant I want to, you know what it is? Here's what it is. There are some games that I don't have this viewpoint of I need to finish it because they're games that I will keep playing. I'll come back to Tapestry. I will come back to Altar Quest. I will come back to. Either Fields is the kind of game that, for me, my game plan is to play through it and then trade it on and consider it like a good season of TV that I enjoyed, that I watched. And so I have more of a mindset of completionist, that similar to the way I treat legacy games as well, that because I feel like I'm actually going to finish it, because I feel there's a destination as opposed to a journey, I have this more of a mindset of trying to knock it all out, get it done, not forcing myself to play a negative game, obviously, but forcing myself to finish that last season of TV so I can go back to Game of Thrones for the fourth time.
And then I'm guessing not watch that last season.
Not watch that last season.
I mean, I don't know. Actually, I haven't actually
Yeah.
watched. Now we're totally off the rails, but I haven't watched the any of the series yet, because when it started, I'd read the books. I was reading the books. Like, no, I was like, I'm gonna wait until he finishes the books, and I've now realized,
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
no, no. So I just need to go watch it and just accept that not good ending is going to be the ending.
So I will say I didn't like the ending, but I don't know why people were disappointed with the ending, because by the time you hit by the time you hit the beginning of the last season, it was pretty clear that the ending was not going to deliver in a way people wanted to. So I didn't I like game I think Game of Thrones was tremendous, absolutely tremendous. And I think the last season was fine. I don't think it was bad. I don't think it was good. I think it was fine. But I think people expected it to be amazing, even though the last 3 seasons were only fine. And so, yeah, I wasn't disappointed the same way people were because my expectations were lower.
Yeah, they kind of did that. If you watch the Olympics, that amazing dismount and the gymnastics,
Yeah,
and they took a step when they landed. They didn't fall.
yeah.
They took a step, and everyone's like, ooh, ooh.
Yeah, it's not the worst. If you walk in with the expectation that it's the worst, you're already gonna have a much better time than the people who wanted it to be amazing.
So, what I have on my table right now is Imperial Spells and Steam.
Ooh, how
Just
is that?
I've only played one game, and I played it one game two-handed because my wife just got back in, and she has to still quarantine for another 4 or 5 days.
Okay.
But I wanted to learn it, and I ordered the expansion separate, so I haven't gotten to play it solo yet. That hasn't arrived. But from what I played so far, I think it's really cool. I mean, it's weird because it's so much stuff and it's a big box and it's
Yeah.
an expensive box, but it's not really a heavy game. I mean,
So
it's not like Ticket to Ride light train game, but it is nothing like any of those 18xx games. I mean, it is a medium light train game, which is exactly what I want. You
my
know,
question is it worth the setup, the big box, and the hassle?
you know the. I mean, again, only having played once,
Sure.
the the setup's not long,
Okay.
and big box, from what I've seen so far, only makes it easier to set up.
Interesting.
Like
Maybe I'll get. Maybe I'll. I mean, when I first saw the thing, it was on my radar originally, and then I just saw the box size, and I have a pretty firm rule that if the larger the box is, the more interested in the game I have to be, just because I find that often involves more work, more pieces, more components. I'm staring at the giant anachrony box behind your head, and at least that's a good game. But yeah, it's so I think I wasn't. While I was interested in the game, I wasn't interested enough compared to the box size. But recently, between yourself, between board game ramblings, between a whole bunch of channels recently, I've just seen it talked about more and more. And I mean, it didn't just land, but it's being talked about, and
yeah,
now I'm suddenly interested again.
yeah, it's almost like it's taking the train game and it turns it on its head a little bit because I was just explaining to my wife why I wanted to play it with her. Of there's that moment in any kind of train game, things have to connect. Like it's a
Yes,
train. That's how trains work. And there's those moments where like, I just can't do it. I can't connect. I can't do. Yet with this game, because it's spells and steam, it is magic. It's like you know what? Screw that magic. Skip. And it's just something for someone
interesting.
who's looking for something a little bit lighter but still strategic because you're still building an engine.
Yeah,
Pun. Um, but a very interesting engine with lots of choices. Like every time as you build it up, you get to choose. I'm not going to do this one. I'm just going to skip that part. I'm going to do this one instead. Or I'm going to skip a whole step of this train that I'm on of my engine because you have to go sequentially unless you use magic and then you skip. I so far I find
interesting.
it really satisfying. Um, to be determined at a few more plays if it's worth the price tag. 'Cause it's a you get a deluxe even when you get the base. You're getting kind of deluxe.
Yeah. So I'm less worried about price tag because of the fact that I sell and trade my games. Like there's very often you lose something along the way, but if you get a few games out of it and you lose that $10 in the rotation or whatever it is, I don't mind prices quite as much as I hold. I don't mind. I don't like holding on to games I'm not playing. That's a different story entirely. But I mean, the concept of magic and trains, you have me interested. I mean, I will say I've noticed this is a trend whenever I do hop on, videos or podcasts with other people and talk about games. I usually walk away with a few things that I want to get my hands on.
Yeah, yeah. Right now, I'm definitely high on my initial opinion, my initial thoughts, and then doubly high because my wife and I play a lot of co-op games. Or if we're playing competitive, we lean more towards ones where it's more Euro games where they're a little closer to multiplayer solitaire. Like maybe we're gonna mess with each other a little bit, but
Hmm.
I'm not ruining her plan. Like I'm not. Ooh, I could do something for me, or I could totally destroy you, Alex. I'm gonna destroy.
Yeah,
Um, but what this one has is when you with the expansion with the AI, it's set up to where you can play co-op team mode and have a
interesting.
couple of AIs out there, which I am totally intrigued by. I don't know how it works. Michael at One Stop, he mentioned it to me as something that's possible. I was like, really? Well, that's cool. I have to try that. So
Sounds intriguing. I like co-op games.
yeah, so that one's on my table. So I'm not really playing it so much as I'm just kind of learning it, and then I've been playing a lot of, and it's possible the new stuff's going to show up while we're talking. A lot of Kingdom Rush. I have
Mhm.
the
Then you say the new
what's
stuff.
the
Do you
new
mean what I think you mean?
for those of us who just listing, we're getting stuff.
Yes. And
Oh,
this,
you got
by
the
the
new
way,
stuff. It showed up.
it showed. I haven't even opened it. I grabbed it and headed downstairs to make it to this call. So I'll go ahead and open this while we continue to talk.
Yeah, so that's what I've been. I'm just that's supposed to be here today, so I'm waiting for the new stuff. Like I mean, I went big time on this. I even painted my minis in this thing.
Impressive.
Like
Yeah, I've not. I need to paint. I mean, time is always an issue, but
I mean, if you look closely at them, it's not impressive, but from a distance, it's impressive.
so I got, my, for those of you listening, I'm just holding up various polyomino tiles with different shapes. I'm still halfway through the video of how to do that, but yeah, Kingdom Rush for me. I don't know if I know your opinion of it. I mean, clearly you like it, but Kingdom Rush for me was a game that I was very hyped about, and I was expecting to be disappointed because I didn't think they'd be able to do it. A cooperative polyomino game to me is almost inherently a problem because if it's too easy, there's not a game, and if it's too hard, I mean, how do you like tighten that balance perfectly? And honestly, I know a lot of people complained about the difficulty. I thought the difficulty was excellent. I thought it was a challenge, but it felt rewarding to win, but it wasn't easy and it wasn't too hard for me. And so I reached out to them when I heard they're doing the Elemental Uprising, and I was like, "Hey, I love your game. I want more of it. Let me cover your game for your Kickstarter." So they sent me the whole bunch of stuff, and I'm excited.
Yeah, no, I really liked it. I was super pleasantly surprised by it. It finished as it was number 3 on my games of the year, but my number 1 co-op game of the
Ooh,
year.
I haven't done my games of the year yet. I need to do that one. I haven't done my games of 2020 yet.
Hey, but you
Yeah.
better hurry because if you hit February, everyone's going to think you're going to do your
Nah,
top games of 2021, and that's going to be embarrassing.
the more time I get, the more I can like get a few in. There's actually one right now that I want to get another play in before I finalize my list. It's going to be Whistle Mountain. Whistle Mountain is one that I got one play in. I kind of want to get a few more in because I don't feel right putting it in my top games of 2020 with only one play. But it might hit it. We'll see.
Yeah, I did a I mean, I did mine in November. My just like my nominees, and then I had a in December. This is the final order as I went back and played them all again. But I just did a hard cutoff. I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
If it was in my hands by November 15th, it counts. Anything that's still fulfilling or is just coming out, it can be next year. So like Dwellings of Eldervale is in my potentials for next year. I know everyone loves Dwellings of Eldervale except for Silver
Except
Wrong
me. Except me.
Oh, and you.
Oh wait, Sylvie Wrong Games didn't like it either.
They
Interesting.
thought yeah, they talked about how they thought it was fine. Um,
Well, and that's a fair distinction. I don't think it's bad. I think it's fine. It's just in that genre of area control, there are games I love and there are games that are good. Dwellings to me was a good game that I wouldn't turn down, but I want to keep the ones I love.
yeah. So now there's 2 people.
Yeah,
And I got to play it at a local con, because Luke Laurie is a local guy to
yeah.
me. So I played it once, max player count with an early prototype, with all of us slightly sauced, being taught by Luke, also slightly sauced at the time. It's the only time I've gotten to play. So like that one, a lot of people say, well, how come that was not on your list? Because I haven't played it yet. Like that's there.
Yeah. And Whistle Mountain is his.
Yeah.
Whistle Mountain's also Luke Laurie.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. I haven't tried that one. Under Falling Skies, which people are really high on. I liked it, but I didn't get
Spoiler
that
alert.
chapter.
Under Falling Skies, I'm pretty sure is my number one for 2020. I haven't done my list
Oh,
officially, but I'm pretty sure it is.
yeah. So, but that one didn't. I mean, that one had just kind of was starting to go out to people right
Mhm.
around then. They say, you know what? I don't have it yet.
Yeah.
Next year.
And your number one was Court of Miracles, right? Or was it a tie? It
Oh,
was a tie. It
yeah.
was Court of Miracles and something else.
And Guildmaster.
Guildmaster, nice. Yes.
Yeah. The boy, the man. 2 games that shocked crap out of me. Did not think I was gonna care. I legitimately got Court of Miracles. Like, oh, that's a cool looking board.
So I mean, I got my hands on Court of Miracles because of that video. I was like, I mean, I know you liked it, but number one game of the year, I'll try it. I'll figure out what's going on here. But yeah,
Yeah. I told like the fact that, and I am not a designer. The fact that I took the time and figured out a way to put bots in the game because I wanted to play it that much. I was like, that has to
counts for
be.
something.
Yeah. Because I was talking to some people saying, well, you shouldn't put it up there because you did something on it. I'm like, not officially I didn't, but I'm also looking at, I did something on it because I really wanted to play it and I couldn't. I didn't have people. And like I said with Guildmaster, if I was smart enough to take a solo AI for that, I would do it. But I am not, because that is hard. Yes, I'll be very curious to see what you think about Quarter Miracles. I will say it's a very different game once you have at least 3 factions playing. Like,
Interesting.
it's playing 2 one-on-one is fine. It's interesting. I enjoy it. But when you get a 3rd, 4th, 5th, that's when that game,
Nice.
stinks.
And I've been holding off to a third player because I checked the BGG rankings of what it's best with, and there does seem to be a big gap between 2 and then 3 and 4. So I've been holding off till I can get a 3-player game in. But I do. It's not on my mantle anymore. I moved it. I moved it somewhere, but I want to play it.
Yeah, it's because it's like any area control. It's a very light area control, but any area control game, like you really want to play Lords of Hellas with 2, or if you want to play Lords of Hellas at all, I don't know.
I have it on my shelf. I want to play it. I haven't gotten it to the table yet.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. It's hard to really feel area control with only two. But anyhow,
Yeah.
we are so far afield of what we were supposed to be talking about. It's amazing. Kingdom Rush, Spells Team, that's what's on my table and what I'm playing right now. But let's actually talk about what we came here to talk about. So, everybody watching and listening, we've settled on, in a big old air quotes here, the cult of the new,
Yeah.
which is a very catchy phrase. And first question is, what does that even mean?
What does cult of the new mean? So to me, cult of the new just means the premise that you are always so caught up in the new stuff that you never allow yourself to enjoy the old stuff, or even the stuff that is new today becomes old. And like today, we're talking about Court of Miracles and Kingdom Rush and Imperial Spells of Steam. And are we still playing those games that we love 3 years from now? Or are we caught up in this game and that game and Kingdom Rush Elemental Uprising and who knows what? To me, cult of the new is the premise and the idea that you are too busy enjoying the hype that you're not busy enjoying the games you love.
Yeah, I think that that's right on because as we've been thinking about this, I've been looking through the stuff that I have and going through my little game tracker app. I'm like, well, what was I actually playing? And it made me feel good that I did a little video on the games that got played by me the most last year, and one of those was Sentinels of the Multiverse.
That's
That
not
is
a new game.
no, that is an old game, and I'm not even talking about the app. Like I didn't even count the times I played it on the app. Just
Yeah.
literally had the cards out on the table. But yeah, it's so easy to get blind. I look at it as kind of being blinded by the shinies and
Yeah.
Kickstarter, and I guess now GameFound.
It's shiny.
Hugely to blame for this. Like I just did a review of Sulkin. Horrible timing. That came out 2 days
Oh my
before.
gosh, before Daniel Tassini, yeah.
Like, like, but
If you want even better timing, I did a video with Board Game Coffee, and in that video we talked about the T series and what's coming next and like what else are you excited about. And that video only went up today. We filmed it last week. It went up after. And I got a
oops.
comment saying, hey, that not probably won't be another T game like you guys are suggesting there will be. And I was like, I forgot we talked about that because it wasn't a big deal a week ago.
Yeah, the next T game is Try to Forget We Covered This. Um, yeah, I just, but even that, like, one, it's got the written article has a lot of views, which is
Yeah.
interesting. The written stuff has bizarrely high views on things that I can never ever guess. There's one. So for perspective, written articles when they get posted on Geek HQ, which is where all my written stuff goes,
Yeah.
um, usually will get in a month 3 to 7,000 hits, somewhere in there. There's this game earlier this summer, a Kickstarter game called Kleos, area control, Greek
Oh
mythology.
yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, very cool game, very cool game. And it did funded and a bit over.
Yeah.
Did okay for a first time publisher on Kickstarter. 20,000 views each month.
That's pretty
Twenty
solid.
thousand. I'm like, what?
Why?
Yeah, well, what is it? What was so special about this? But so written articles aside, the video, it just, and I knew it wasn't going to do well, but I didn't think it wasn't going to do that well. But yet, no one really cares. And then as you look at it, like the mechanics of it, and I even said this when we made a post about the Tashini instance. The quality of design and the quality of mechanics is not in question,
Hmm.
and it's not. That game does, I think, time powered worker placement right. Like what Pendulum was trying to do in so many ways, but it's not exciting to look at it. Like the gears are cool, but
Sure.
then you got a bunch of cubes and a bunch of cylinders, and no one really cares. Like I feel like if that was on Kickstarter today, people would be freaking out that there's no minis.
I mean, so Tzolk'in was a big deal. I mean, this goes back to Cult of New. Tzolk'in was a huge deal when it first came out. I think it was 2012, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But Tzolk'in, it was like everyone was talking about it. Everyone is hyped about the gears, and it still holds up. I mean, 8 years later, it is still well loved. It hasn't been forgotten to time, but it's also not going to receive the amount of hype and buzz that something new will. And I think I'm okay with that. I mean, I don't think like Gladiator. Gladiator is one of my favorite movies of all time, but no one's talking about it because it's a really old movie, but it still holds up. I think in general, in any industry, in music, in books, in movies, TV shows, board games, just like any other media, there will be things that hold up over time and things that survive the aging out. I'm always more fascinated by the things that were good but somehow didn't make it, because like that's interesting. Games that are bad that don't make it, that makes sense. Games that are good that we still talk about is yeah, makes
Or games
sense.
that are bad and do make it. That's
Oh, those
always
don't
the
make sense. Those don't make sense at all. But yeah, I mean, I think yeah, it's definitely Tolkien is an older game. It holds up.
just riffing. What's the first game to your mind that's a good game but never didn't really make it?
Ooh, I mean, I can't remember because it didn't really make it. I will come back to that when I think of something. A good game that
Uh,
didn't make it.
Let me think.
Um,
I'm gonna turn around and look behind me.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Like, I'm thinking as well because I think they are the exception. But like, what is a game that is criminally underrated? And let's not get into discussion whether a game can be underrated.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
I definitely think it can. Heck, I would say Court of Miracles. Not by
oh,
me. It's perfectly rated by me. And with Guildmaster. But here's one that was actually right behind me that I think
mhm.
is a fantastic, fun deck building game. No one plays it. Ah, Battle for Greyport.
Well, I don't think I've ever. That's in the Red Dragon in universe.
Yep, which is
Yeah.
a fun and it's interesting. I actually did an interview with Jeff Morrow of
Hmm.
Slugfest, and we talked about it a little bit. And there's all who tons of reasons why bad timing. Like they came out at the same time, like the Harry Potter deck builder did.
Sure.
Like good luck being noticed that. But the big thing that's interesting to me is they biffed on their balancing. That game came out and you could not win. Like
Interesting. It's cooperative.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, nice.
cooperative,
Okay.
and you just was unwinnable. And they released some erratas and stuff later, and they fixed it. And then they did one expansion. They had new rule books and stuff, and that was all great. But like, and I played another game recently that did the same thing. That it just was so hard. Like, I mean, I don't mind losing, but like
You want
when
to
you're
feel like
losing
you
on
could
turn
win.
two, you know,
I've always said a good cooperative game has to feel like when you win, you could have lost, and when you lose, you could have won.
right,
Yeah.
right, yeah, yeah. There's always the outliers. Like you do something stupid, that's fine.
Sure.
But yeah, I just remember playing like it had a tutorial mission, and people couldn't win the tutorial.
Mhm.
And so that kind of stuff. But so that's the first one that comes to my mind. Good game, no one cares.
For me, I think I'll pick a game called, and it's a kids game. I mean, there's another game I could pick for adults too. Like, so let's go with the kid. The kids game first is going to be a game called Leo the Lion, and it's a little cooperative memory based game that is great for children. That no one like it doesn't no one cares about. It's not doesn't not into any hobble line of whatever, but it's one that I always have to like teach people about. And everyone who's played it has it's again it's a family kids based game, but everyone who's played it in that genre has enjoyed it, and it just doesn't really get talked about at all. And then for adult games, I think I'm gonna pick V Commandos, which is a game that people know about. It's a game people like, but in terms of their general distribution and awareness of the game, I think it's completely out of proportion to how good a game it is. They do have Assassin's Creed, which went to Kickstarter, which is a re-implementation of that game, though.
Oh, I didn't realize that was a reimplementation. Yeah, V Commandos. That's one that I've almost gotten
Almost
many
gotten
times.
as close.
Yeah, like many times. It might probably hard to find now.
So
Um,
I think they're coming out with a new Kickstarter and new expansions and new whatever at some point. But they and that could it could be just they. I mean, I don't think they didn't have a Kickstarter only distribution. They had a retail distribution. It never really made it past its core group of people.
time to reach out to them to cover it, right?
Yeah. Oh no, I already did. Oh, I already reached out to them. Are you kidding me? I heard it's coming to Kickstarter. As soon as I heard, I was like, hey, I love your game. Please send me stuff so I can cover your game. But yeah,
You dressed up as one of the characters instead of video.
that's the
Say,
part of
I
what
don't
you
want
got
to
to
come on
do.
too strong, but
Yeah. No, no, I reached out. I mean, I'm not sure what their full plans are. I know they're sending me some of the miniatures because they're gonna have like a miniature pack to upgrade the game. I don't know if they're sending me the new content for the game, so we'll see. We'll see what actually happens. But either way, I hope it as well. I love that game.
now we're talking about old games. So this is an interesting question because we were talking about it. Like, what makes a game old versus ancient? Because yeah, to truth be told, I mean, ancient Monopoly, right?
Sure.
But in more reasonable modern parlance, Sulkin is almost ancient now, as we
Sulkin is ancient.
like
What, like
that's not even
2012.
10 years, not even 10 years.
So everything's relative. I mean, and I think it's going to depend. I think perspective is going to depend on whether you were around when that game came out. Meaning, what I mean by that is, let's say you were around when the game came out. If I was a gamer when a game came out, I think 5 to 6 years, somewhere in that range. Like once you start thinking of games that came out in 2015, I mean, what's a game that came out in 2015? Like any ideas offhand? I don't even know. When did Spirit Island come out? Was that 2016?
Probably around then. It's funny. So
Yeah,
think about like, you know what? I would almost say Gloomhaven's old.
yeah,
Gloomhaven's
that's what I'm
old.
saying.
That's an old game.
Yeah. And so like I think when you've been around when the game came out, I think it's 5 to 6 years. If you joined the hobby and you're talking about games that were around before you joined the hobby, I think it's only even 2, 3 years. Like if you joined the hobby today for the first time, then I think even something that came out in 2019 is because it's no longer in the parlance, it's no longer being shown, talk about to the degree that the new stuff is. I think already that will get viewed as ancient to a degree if you weren't around. Because like I mean something that came out, what's a game that came out in 2019? Wingspan. Wingspan came out in 2019. So that's a
Really?
game
That's
that
it?
yeah, that's it. But like
Oh,
that's the
right.
thing.
'Cause that's right. It won every single award last year. That's right.
And so because it's still so recent and because we were around when it came out in 2019, we still view it as a new game. It hasn't managed to migrate past. But if someone joined the hobby today, I think Wingspan would be an old game. It's not the
Well,
thing everyone's
you
talking
know,
about.
I'd almost say, God, I think of it as an old game now.
But
And maybe it's because
2
I'm
seconds ago you
hearing
said
about
that's it.
it. Yeah.
So it goes both ways. Sure, it's an old game, but also I said 2019. You're like, that's it. You thought it had been. Oh no, you're right. I guess you said you thought it was an older game. That's a
Yeah.
good point. You did.
Yeah. And I think it's got to be because I just have heard about it so much.
It's number like what 3 on board? No, so I think it's number 1 family game. It's high on Board Game Geek. I don't remember what it is, but it's the number 1 family game on Board Game Geek. It's somewhere in the top 20 or something like that of all time, which is a pretty notable achievement for a game that came out in 2019. I think it might be the highest game if you're combining like newness and ranking. I think it's like one of the highest up there. But yeah, we were so focused on the number. I mean, how many games come out a year? How many games that are forget how many games? That's a lot. How many games that we talk about come out a year? Like 400, 500? It's like a
Yeah.
decent amount. And so for things to filter down in 2 years, you're already 1,000 games into the future. That's insane. Like the number of things to keep track of. And even before I became a content creator, I was heavily involved. I was always keeping track. Do I want to get this one? Do I want to get that one? A content creator has made the problem worse. But even before then, I like games, and so things become old quickly.
Yeah. So talking about content creation, is this kind of our fault? A little bit?
It depends. Chicken and egg. Chicken and egg. The question is, why why do we talk about new games more? Is it because we're more excited about new games, or is it because those are the things that get attention? So, and if it gets attention, is it our fault? Or is it the audience's fault? Is it the ecosystem's fault? Are we enablers? Like where does the blame lie? Because like something that's interesting is like you talked about recording, you talked about you have an app that you record your plays and looking at your stuff. If you look at your top 10 most played games, how many of them are new games?
Well, I've only been recording them for the past year. I didn't bother
So
before.
in the
Um,
past year, how many of them are
yeah.
games that were from 2020, from your most played games?
From 2020, I think 5 of them were from 2020. One of them was from earlier, but had an expansion kind of refresher, which is why I was playing it again a lot. But I think
So
five or
then I take
six
it
from
back. It
2020.
is so I take it back. It is your fault. Meaning, so what I mean by that is when I look at my own top 10 most played games, the or even more than that, if I go down to my top 20, no, if I go down to top 20, I have Kingdom Rush in there. If I go into my top 10, I have nothing from 2020 that is in my top 10 most played games. But I'm not going to talk about them as much because it's not getting the views. So meaning, and I still do talk about them. I've actually just started recently doing a series of reviews where I go through some of my older favorites that I love, that I enjoy, that I still own and whatnot. But it certainly is less popular content than talking about whatever's on Kickstarter this month. So for me, I play a lot of new games. Don't get me wrong, but I go back to my older games and more. I go back to Blood Rage. I go back to Spirit Island. I go back to Terraforming Mars. I go back to Cthulhu Death May Die. And those aren't necessarily old games, but they're not 2020, and they're the ones I play the most.
I do think, one, yes, it is my fault. Though I will be curious as I keep tracking for the next
Mhm.
couple of years, how that shift that it kind of trickles down and
Sure.
breaks away. Which of those games that I played the most in 2020 am I still going to be wanting to play over and over again? Like one of them
Yeah.
was King's Dilemma. We're going to
Oh,
finish it,
yeah.
and
Yep.
then I'm never going to play it again.
Makes sense.
You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll be curious. 3-4 years from now, um, how that shapes out, and which games are still going to be there, and like guaranteed, Red Dragon Inn is going to be on that list.
Nice.
We play that a lot when we have people because quick, easy, bust it out. So, and that's one thing. That's for me. That's a game that just keeps on giving. I will keep playing that. And is it ever going to be on my top game of all time? Probably not. Will it be on my top most played games of all time? Probably.
Yeah, my top most played games, my top games only have like 50-50 overlap. Like there's definitely is overlap, but my games that are accessible and easy to get to the table and see play more often are not the same as my favorite games of all time, especially in terms of just the sheer like Blood Rage is a game that takes 4 hours to play. Well, not 4 hours, that's not true. It takes 2.5, 3 hours to play. That's a
It
solid
just
chunk of
feels like
time.
4 hours. It's okay. You can say it.
It's a well, oh my gosh, I love Blood Rage. Don't get me started. But yeah, it's I don't think I've only played it like 4 or 5 times in 2020 versus a game like I don't know Terraforming Mars. I managed to play significantly more. Or yeah, it definitely is overlap, but not a complete matchup.
Yeah, and then there's also there's the COVIDness that's messed with it because
Yeah,
I can guarantee you if COVID hadn't happened, Kushi Express would have been in my top 10 most played games of the year.
I've
No
never heard
question.
of that one.
Oh my gosh, it's this tiny. I guess probably not
It's
tiny.
rare that I haven't heard of a game.
Yeah, it's a Korean. People who are watching are like, I'm so tired of talking about this game. For my money, it is the most fun dexterity game you will ever find. It is from a Korean publisher, Mandu Games. And oh wait, do I see it? Yeah, this is actually a new copy of it because I had to order from the publisher a case of 6 because everybody wanted one that I played it with. But it is a game about making meat skewers,
Interesting.
and you get a card, and everyone has their pepper, their tomato, and their bacon strips, and the card tells you what to make, and it's a race to make it.
That's so interesting. I'll be looking into it now.
And it's hard to find. It is hard to get a hold of. But some friends of mine were over. I was helping them make some stuff for their Kickstarter. They were doing some how to play videos for a game called Omicron Protocol, which funded. It's delivering soonish, hopefully.
Okay.
And I said, okay, guys, you need to use my camera and all that stuff. That's great. I got to review this thing. Let's do it. And we pulled it out. And Bernie, one of the designers, he was looking at it, and it's like a 4-page rule book. And he finished. He goes, "Huh." I was like, "Huh? What?" He's like, "This is either the greatest game design in the history of the world, or the
Or
stupidest thing we've ever played."
okay,
And,
but
and
you
so
like
we
it.
jumped. And we jumped in and we started playing it. And what's assigned to me that I knew there were some of the errors when we finished because you don't know when the game ends exactly. Somewhere in the stack of cards in the bottom, like 5 cards, there's a card that gets shuffled and it says "the end" or "close." It
Cool.
says "close."
Okay,
And when it came up, the whole table went, "Oh!" Like,
that's awesome.
and it's a 10-minute game, so we can play again. But it's just one of those things. So like that, if I could see people, like I would take that into school, and at lunchtime we would meet some of the other teachers. We would play that. Um, so like that would guaranteed be in my top 10 most played
Most
games.
play games, except for the fact COVID changes everything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I mean it's not the most brilliant design in the world, but
you don't have to be a brilliant designer. You just have to. You
right.
have to be fun. That's all you have to be.
Yeah, it's and the other thing I always tell people, the other one that they sent me that I haven't gotten to play because of COVID.
That's coconuts, right? Or is it
Yeah,
something different?
Cocoa Banana. It involves shielding your head with a coconut before someone else can hit you with a stuffed banana.
Oh, that's every game I've ever wanted to play.
Right? So apparently at Essen 2 years ago, they were just giving out the bananas, and so people
Mhm.
were just walking around Essen with these stuffed bananas. And I was like, "What is going on?" But again, sounds fun. Never played it. But what were we even talking about? Oh, Cult of the New. uh, so those are 2 older games now that I think, yeah, but it's just it's the fun factor. I think that's what's going to make them come back for me. The old stuff. It's not
Sure.
the brilliant design game, like because there's going to be another brilliant design that's going to be new and is going to be blinged out with like Dwellings of Eldervale, miniatures that actually roar. Like
So I think all of this comes back to that question of is it our fault? Like what are we contributing to? And I think there's room for a content creator, or whether it's a dedicated channel or just having sections. Like for instance, I like the fact that I'm doing reviews of older stuff now, and I hope to make it a continued thing. It's not going to be the only thing I do because it doesn't do as well, but I like the idea of once a week, once every 2 weeks, reviewing an older game. When you just reviewed Sulkin, I think that's great. Bring new eyes, bring fresh eyes, to something. But I would also say, to a certain extent, it's also the publisher's fault, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just it's the nature of the churning economy of anything. In our case, board games. Like, I know someone who's talking about how a publisher wanted them to review. You know, let's take a better example. Do you know how I have Under Falling Skies? I have Under Falling Skies because I reached out to CG and said, "Hey, I'd love to review Through the Ages Leaders and Alliances, an expansion for Through the Ages." And they said, "Oh, I mean, we can send you that, but can you do Under Falling Skies instead, or as well as?" And I was like, "Sure." I looked into it first. I like to make sure a game is a match before I review it. But I looked into it. I was like, "That looks intriguing. It looks good art, good puzzle, good whatever." Like, "Oh, sure, I'm happy to review it." But so, like, that's a case of them pushing their newer stuff because that's what they're printing. And I know people who've talked about how publishers won't send out older copies of older games because they're not doing print runs. They're just getting rid of their older stock of whatever. So evergreens, to a certain extent, sure, but past that, there is a constant rotation of the games because that's how publishers make money. That's what they want to enter the ecosystem, the sphere. That's what people are looking to buy. I mean, for every new game, for every older game I play, and there are older games, and like today, we talked about before the call started. We briefly talked about campaign games and how I have too many of those. If they stopped making games today, if they just shut it off, no more new games, I think I'd be covered. I think I would have enough games in this general ecosystem that I could play them all. But
Well,
I'd
you
still
have one
be
copy of Gloomhaven. You
that's
can play
enough.
that to
That's all
completion.
I need.
Yeah.
But I think I'd be sad because to me gaming is not just about what I love. It's also a process of exploration. It's also a journey of finding that new thing that pushes the right buttons. Now, I'm sad either way. I'm sad about the games that I love that I'm not playing, and I'm sad about the games that are new that I'm not getting. It's I definitely want everything, and time is a relevant factor. But I think it's a general. I think it's everyone's fault. We're all contributing to this cycle, but we're also getting new games. Like what is your favorite game that came out in 2020? Oh, Quarter Miracles. Quarter Miracles. We got this.
Yeah,
So
Quarter Miracles Guildmaster. Yeah.
if Quarter Miracles didn't exist, would you be sad about it?
I wouldn't know because it wouldn't exist. But yeah, I would legitimately be bummed.
And so I feel that way about any number of games, including Kingdom Rush. Kingdom Rush, I'm really enjoying the puzzle of it. And so if we pick a new game, a new discovery, and we say, well, that's just never entered our collections, there's a degree of loss attached to that. That's why I seek out these new things, because whatever my favorite game is, at one point it was a game I hadn't played. It was a game that I didn't know about. And then I sought it out, I got it, and now it's among my favorite games. It's a constant journey.
Is wonderful, I think, as Kickstarter and well, crowdfunding has been for the industry. I mean, I certainly that's how I discovered it.
Sure.
Really, it's also I think perpetuated this because there's so much of I think the crowdfunding is that experience.
Hmm.
I mean, so many people get so invested in unlocking those stretch goals and so invested in championing this game that they have discovered. And if it's like a Awakened Realms game with 50,000 other people.
No, no,
You
no.
know,
Forget Awakened Realms. Head on over to Primal. Back Primal is a freaking good game. Just telling everyone who's listens.
I'm really torn. Everybody, I'm torn. Anybody, if you remembers, make a comment on this and ask me if I broke down and back to Primal in the comments because it's hard. What my saving grace on that is can I put it somewhere? Because you're seeing this anachrony box here, which is taking up pretty much a whole shelf.
I don't understand the question at all. If I can see your screen properly, it looks like there's a good 2-3 feet above the anachrony box. That is plenty of space.
Well, but I can't just I got to be able to get to the anachrony box.
Yeah, not if you have Primal on top of it. You don't.
Wow, shots fired, mine. So Board Game Co. will now never review anything from Mind Clash games.
I need to play my Mind Clash game. Speaking of Cult of the New and Cult of the Old, I have Anachrony sitting on my shelf. I was strong. I resisted backing the latest Kickstarter, that box you're looking at, because I was like, I will not allow myself to do it while I have the original unplayed on my shelf. But I need to play it. I've heard so many good things. It's just I'm late to the Mind Clash party, and so I got Anachrony right before COVID, and I know there's a solo mode, but I was going to play it with my group, and I read the rules. I just haven't played it.
Yeah, and you're good for a long time. Like I
Yeah.
just released my review on Anachrony, and I do. I don't always get fully caught up in the blinged out stuff, but the miniatures for Anachrony are a joy. Just something about just dropping little worker in it. It's
So I
so
do have that. I have the exosuit pack.
yeah, it's so unnecessary, but that is so much fun. But like I just I've looked at the expansions and the 57 modules that came with it, and the I don't know that I will ever play all of it. Like it's just so much. Like just I mean, I played nine or 10 games, and no zero. It would be zero issue just to use the base game for that.
Yep.
Zero issue, and I would not feel like, oh, I'm starting to understand. Like I put some other stuff in so I could experience it to write and talk about it. But you are good. You made the right choice. Wait till someone is angry at Mind Clash in 2 years,
Oh,
and then grab their box.
I mean, if I would have played the game and liked it, so I have a rule. My rule is very simple when it comes to this kind of stuff, which is I insist that I be logical about things I haven't played. I allow myself all the leeway in the world about games I like. Once I like a game, I don't care. I will overpay. I will get the expansions, even though I don't play them. I'll get the blinged out stuff. I allow myself the leeway of being irrational and illogical once I like the game, because I no longer view it as something I have to be mindful of getting my money back or this or that. At that point, it's it's the equivalent of going out to eat. It's money gone for something that I enjoy.
Yeah, is that a stack of 5 zombicides behind you that I'm
I
seeing?
am
Say that?
99% sure that I'm getting rid of Zombicide Invader, but the rest of it I'm keeping.
Yeah, but that is like let's say it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7
It's
bucks.
3 full Calyx cubes, and that's with it condensed. Yeah. I have all the Zombicide stuff. I have Zombicide Season 2 as well coming. I like Zombicide a lot. It's a fun, able to get to the table game. For me, Invaded just doesn't see play because I prefer the original, but I want to give it 1 or 2 more shots. But after that, Invade is going to go away if it doesn't hold up.
Because of the new Zombicide 2.0. It
So,
got you.
to an extent, but keep in mind, I'm keeping Black Plague instead of Invader. I'm keeping the older one over Invader.
Oh yeah, okay. I mean,
But I do have the new one
I'm
coming,
there.
so
Fantasy
it's
over sci-fi any day of the week for
yep,
me.
that's
It's
where I am.
it's not hard. Like I just sold my Clank in Space, not because I don't like it, but because like I'm always thinking like, why didn't I get the other Clank? And I like dragons more than I like space tyrants or
Yep,
whatever. So finally, I let it go, and I'm sure I will now buy the other
get
one.
it and want it back.
Yeah, I hope I have yet to do that. I've yet to sell something and then later on bought it again. I've not done.
Really? Oh man, so I keep track. I mean, I've been in this hobby for a while, and I've gotten rid of a lot of games, but I have definitely gotten a few back, and I would say it's interesting. So my ratio is like from all the games I get rid of, I probably get like 1 in every 30 or so back, and I get rid of a lot of games. But from the ones I get back, I usually find that I was right the first time most of the time. But there are a handful of exceptions. I have Everdell, which is a game that I was wrong about. I have Istanbul, a game that I was wrong about. There were a handful of games that I got rid of, got them back, and then they have become staples in my collection. But most of the time, I find I'm right. Most of the time, my initial impression was didn't like it, and there's a reason I got rid of it. Not didn't like it enough, and there's a reason I got rid of it.
I mean, we have a very space is at a premium in this hobby.
Yep,
It's not like video games where it all fits on my PlayStation.
yep,
Like
and time playing them. Every game, every good game you're playing could have been a play of Anachrony, could have been a play of Under Falling Skies, could have been a play of Court of Miracles. Every single okay game is taking up time that could have been spent on games we love more.
yeah, and especially because almost in all those situations, someone's that is a game that someone else is gonna love.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, except for some of the foolish ones that should no one should have. And I'm not going to call anything out right now, but put down in your comments what games you think I'm talking about that are games that should not exist that everyone loves.
Ooh, I don't know if I've watched your stuff to know what you don't like.
Oh,
I know what you do
I wouldn't
like.
have covered it. I wouldn't have. It would only be people who have watched enough of my stuff to kind of get an idea of what my
Uh,
personal tastes are. Because for the most part, my reviews, I don't always. I try not to let my personal taste come in too much until it's list
mhm.
time. List time, it's all about totally subjective. I like fantasy, so you have a better chance of winning my award if you're fantasy type thing. Um, but it's just for people, enough people who have seen enough of my stuff might be able to say, "Oh, I bet he hates this game." Mostly, I want to see what people hate.
It's interesting. I'm curious now. I feel like because I know the things you like, but anyways.
Moving on with our kind of cult of the new as we make our way towards the actual game we're actually going to talk about. Let's talk about retheming, where they just slap a new theme, freshen something up, and sometimes I guess it gets done for this
Like
is not a
Zombicide
theme.
Invader.
Yep. Or well, Zombicide Invader, and then right below that you have Massive Darkness, which is basically no zombie
No zombie
Zombicide.
Zombicide. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. But what do you think about rethemes?
So what's the context of the question? I mean, what do I think about in what sense? Do I like them? Do I like the existence of a retheme?
I mean, so in some ways, I'm a curmudgeon, and I think, well, why are you retheming that? Just release the same game, just reprint it. Like you don't need to spend all,
So there's gonna be a few things. I mean, any number of answers. And before we get into my answers, though, is there no game in your collection that you prefer the retheme to the original? Under Falling Skies, it's not really a retheme. They deluxified it. That's okay. I'll give you that. I'll let you call that not a retheme. So now I'm curious because I'm curious what your collection has. But so going to the answer to a degree, I think first of all, rethemes exist for any number of a few reasons. The first is because you can sell people something new, which is always a good reason. I mean, because Zombicide, it's gonna be hard to sell Black Plague 4 times, but you can sell Black Plague and Green Horde and Massive Darkness and Zombicide Invader and Zombicide 2.0. That's certainly gonna be one reason. And to me, usually I'll just get the whatevers and I'll keep the one I prefer the most. I'm not against them. I'm not for them. I certainly have. I mean, my favorite Zombicide is Black Plague, and that's not the original. So I can't say I'm against rethemes if I have that. And then I think part of it as well is going to be licensing. Licensing rights are a big issue. I know that Forbidden Stars, which I have on my shelf, is a retheme of StarCraft because Fantasy Flight lost the rights to StarCraft. What else is there? I'm sure there's others I can think of
Yeah, there's
where
some other. Maybe that's the same one. There's or is that the one that was Warhammer 40K, not StarCraft? That was the thing, or is that a
the
different one?
the retheme is Warhammer 40K. Yes,
Oh, okay, and they don't have the rights to that
correct.
anymore either.
Now
So
they've lost that as well, 100%.
yeah,
Forbidden Star is supposed to be like the release to StarCraft with expansions, and then they lost the rights to Warhammer. So now the next retheme will be in Terranoth or whatever, Fantasy Flight's realm. I don't know if it's actually coming out. I don't want to start any rumors, but I'm saying, yeah,
you heard it here first. BoardGameCo broke that
exactly.
Forbidden Terranoth.
So like, I mean, I think when it exists for licensing rights, then it's just a conversation of, well, it's just a practical necessity. But I'm not. I would agree that in general, I think sticking with the original theme is better. In fact, I have 2 copies of 2 games I'll be reviewing shortly. City of Spies as Sotwell 1942 and Planet Ship 1941, both by the same publisher, and they wanted to clean up some mechanics and streamline the mechanics of the original game, City of Spies. And in the process, they also rethemed it to being a spaceship situation, which to me, I mean, I expect I'll like both of them. I know I love City of Spies. I expect I'll like Planet Ship 2491, but I'm curious whether the additional streamlinedness that they added to the game is going to make up for the fact that, I mean, the game just makes more sense as a spy game. But again, it would be harder to resell it if you were like, once you're cleaning it up, it's harder to resell. Hey, here's an entirely new game that we've streamlined some mechanics. Here's an entirely new theme that we've streamlined some mechanics. Is a different story.
Yeah, interesting. I not always, and the game we're going to talk about later is an example of when I don't think this. But in general, like because IPs, I feel like that's when it happens usually, unless
Okay,
there's some kind of
makes sense.
horrible political incorrectness somehow baked into the game. We're like, okay, no, we're going to get rid of that and do something new. Fine, yes, please do, please do that. But in general, I actually find that I'm super hesitant on IP games, super
Yeah,
hesitant.
I
Um,
agree.
and so I'm always kind of excited if someone takes one of those and they're going to retheme it into something original. I'm always like, oh, I am all for it. Though I know that's not why they do it. They don't care about me. They care
Yeah,
that they don't want to pay that licensing anymore, or
or
they
they
lost
can't,
it.
or they just yeah. I mean, I'm with you on being wary of IP games. That anytime there's an IP game, I tend to hold off for a while. Like Marvel Champions, I basically like when it first came out, I was like, it's Marvel. It's basically just an LCG with Marvel slapped on. I'm not wasting my time with this. And I needed like half the gaming ecosystem to say it's my #1 game this year. Before I was like, fine, I will try it. I'll give it a shot. Now I love it. By the way, absolutely love Marvel Champions. But it's yeah, I'm wary of IPs. But I mean, get a chance to the question about retheming. It ultimately I'm not against it. I'm not averse to it. I am very wary of it. I will say I tend to be even more frustrated with new art. new art on games is always a conversation because sometimes it's for the better, but I find somehow, and I don't know how this is a thing, somehow like 50% of the time it's worse.
That's because you're getting old.
Yeah, those new kids and their darned artwork with their newfangled shenanigans.
Dang chibi art. Back in my day, heads were normal sized.
I might be old. I might actually be old. It's a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an interesting thing. I hadn't even thought about that, but that's definitely another part of it. Is that new edition of the game, and all they're doing is just a new, a better organized rule book and new art.
Yep.
And kind of what does that do? And like Descent, which I know is not.
Descent.
It's a brand
Yep.
new thing. I know it's a brand new game, whatever, Legends or Heroes of just or whatever it's called. The way that they have changed the art for that, people have been or were losing their dang minds. I don't know anybody that thinks it's okay. Like
Nope.
it's either I love it or I hate it with the fire of 1,000 suns.
Yeah, people in this culture tend to have strong opinions. I don't know why.
And for me, I actually kind of like it. I think it's kind of cool and refreshing.
I'm cool with it. I mean, I'm not a Descent fan, so I don't have enough of an opinion. To be clear, I haven't played Descent. I don't mean I don't like it. I mean I haven't played it. And so
you almost
yeah.
alienated a whole bunch of people.
You have to be careful with the words you say. You're like, oh, that game isn't something I like. I just haven't played it is what I really mean. But yeah, no, it's Descent is a game that I would love to get to the table. And in fact, the new version, I believe, no, they're doing it very app assisted, aren't they? I believe they're
Yeah.
doing it app. Yeah, that's a hard pass for me. I have not liked any of Fantasy Flight's app assisted games.
Yeah, it's interesting with Descent. That is a game that I was so underwhelmed. I got so much. I just bought a whole bunch of it a couple years ago. Just bought a
Interesting.
bunch because I was able to find some as on eBay like a cheap little
Yep.
package. I was like, got a great price for everything, and I was just disappointed. I was like, oh, yeah, okay. So I'm actually pretty excited for the new stuff. I'm not excited for the price tag on it.
Yeah, makes sense.
But this is now way out. But I mean, it's not way out, but it in some ways that is almost like a retheme. I mean, I
With Descent?
assume
Yeah.
because I assume it's still the same core game, just everything's been gussied up in some way. But yeah, I don't know.
I mean, they seem to have made some changes, but I haven't followed that one enough to talk coherently or competently on the subject.
I don't talk coherently and competently about anything, so that's okay. So last thing before we actually talk about the game we're going to talk about, what is your favorite old game and your favorite really old game? You can define old and really old however you want.
Oh my gosh, favorite older games. So I'd have to. I have a lot of. You use the word favorite. Favorite suddenly. Like I have all these things I can say for older game, but then suddenly the word favorite came in. El Grande might be my favorite really old game. I think El Grande is like 1998, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's pretty
I'll
old.
tell you what I was doing in 1998.
El Grande. See, Acquire is one I finally got rid of recently. It's a very solid game. That's like 1970. But Acquire I finally got rid of because I realized as much as I enjoy it, I prefer other economic games to it. And so I want to say El Grande is probably my favorite really, really old game. I'm going to call anything before 2000 really, really old. That feels like a safe bet. Past that, Tigris and Euphrates, that also might be before 2000. I don't know. So my favorite old game, maybe Mage Knight. I could see Mage Knight being my favorite old game. That's 2012 or earlier.
I don't know. It's I mean, it's
don't know.
old enough that that's kind of ubiquitous on people's
Yeah.
list of greatest games
Or
ever.
also Through the Ages is pretty old if you count it as being a fan of the original. And I was a fan back when it was the original. I now upgraded to Through the Ages, a new story civilization, but I had it in my collection and played it when it was the original game, so I can call that my favorite old game too. There's a few favorites out there, but like lots of I think Through the Ages, Mage Knight, and El Grande. Let's go with those three. Those sound like solid choices.
Yeah, so it's interesting since I actually am much more recently into the hobby than you are. So I'm gonna
When
go.
did you join?
Well, I just started doing reviews like under 2 years ago.
Sure, but when did you join the hobby?
Probably 2 years before that.
So like 2015, 2016? I
Yeah.
can't do math.
Yeah,
So
something like that.
I'm in it since 2012. 2012 was the year I joined the hobby.
That's like dog years though.
2012 was a good year in games. It was a good year.
But so I mean, so with that in mind, I'm trying to think through games that older ones that might let me. But Mysterium is one of the games that got me into the hobby. Love that game, but that's not that old. That's probably
It's
14,
20,
2015?
yeah, somewhere there. That was a solid game. I got rid of that one not because I didn't like it, but because no one I played with liked it. And
Oh,
so it's not a game that hit the table. But I fought for that game hard and I just gave up.
yeah, that's one that comes out almost every Halloween without fail,
Oh,
if
it's such a good
not
game.
more times. So there's that one, and then I mean I'm a big fan of Euphoria, but that's like 2016. That's even more recent.
No, you've always got to be older than that.
Is it? I don't
Have I
know.
just lost track of time? Is that what's going on? Let me pull up my phone while you keep going.
Yeah, but while I keep babbling, yeah, you can tell me. But I am a big I like that game, and it's weird. A lot of people I know are just not nearly as high on as I am. But I think as a medium light game, it's a good one. I'm gonna say 2014. I'm gonna say 2014. Now that you're looking,
Are you looking? Okay, well, let's find out. Apparently, I'm finding that if you type in Euphoria game, you get some sort of other game that is not a board game. Let's try board game. Euphoria, Build a Better Dystopia is in 2013. Close.
oh, okay,
Close.
that's old.
That's
But
old.
I'm gonna toss out one that's a perennial classic for people who don't play games, but it's probably my wife's favorite.
Hmm.
Ticket to Ride.
That's a solidly old game. That's been
I
around for
mean,
a while.
that's not pre 2000. I
No,
don't think.
no, not that old.
Like what 2008 maybe. Something like that?
I mean, I can pull it up. I would guess 2005, but I could be wrong. It's been around for a while. Let's find out.
And the thing with that, while you look at that, really, and it's
2004. Jeez.
whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's an ancient game. I did it. That
Ancient.
counts.
Ancient. It counts.
I mean, because I'm still even talking about just the original, so that's like 50 versions ago. So
Yeah.
that, you know,
They have milked that cow for quite a few games. Almost, I mean, Pandemic and like Ticket to Ride, like those are like two genres that just keep on giving.
I can't. Gosh, Alan Moon, he probably hasn't had to work in years.
That
Um,
makes sense. You hit the classics. I mean, I think board games are like any other industry in that sense. The people who become the real names can do something with it, and then most of the other people are doing it as a side gig and a this and a that, and trying to make it work. And but yeah, Alan Moon, like Ticket to Ride, has sold a lot of games.
and mostly it's because I can play it with my wife, but I can play it with my wife. I can play it with just kind of a hanging out with other gamers in air quotes.
Yeah,
We can play that and have a good time. I can play it with my mom, which to me, I'm like, okay, if you are a game that I can play with my mom, my nerd gamer friends, my wife, and Joe on the street, then you've done something impressive. You
yeah.
know,
Ticket to Ride. I remember back when I first got into the hobby, I had a full shelf devoted to Ticket to Ride, and then as time went on, I realized I don't need all the Ticket to Rides, and I started getting rid of most of them. But Ticket to Ride is at one point I had a full, not a Calyx shelf because I had like long shelves back then, but I had a full like I had everything. I Ticket to Ride. Oh, Africa came out. Let's get Africa. Oh, United Kingdom came out. Let's get United Kingdom. I just like stacked up every single new one.
yeah. And do you have any of them left?
Just Nordic. Actually, no, I have. I also have First Journey for my kids.
There you go. See, so you still got it. So I mean, again, like the fact that you had you did the full on cull,
Yeah,
and
and still
one of
managed to
them
give it.
made it to your Kalax. That is a
Yeah.
game. But everyone's been waiting for it, and I know we're actually starting to come up on our time for you. We're talking about speaking of old games, and we talked about the retheming because there's a rumor that it is getting a retheme as an Arkham game. Battlestar Galactica is what we're talking
Interesting.
about
So
today. And I only saw a screenshot that someone took of a tweet of someone saying, "I am in beta testing for this, and I am testing this out." That's all I know.
that's fascinating. So I mean, I know Battlestar Galactica. I played it quite a bit when I first had it. It's a game I moved on from. We can talk about why, but it's one I hadn't heard the rumor, but I'm wondering, is that retheme? Is like, did they lose the rights for Battlestar Galactica? Is that why they're retheming it?
I think so. I mean, I've heard people say enough that they don't have the rights to that anymore, which seems like the Fantasy Flight thing to do is to not have rights to stuff
Yeah,
anymore. Um, so that I've heard that enough times that I have to assume it has to
because
be
I mean, I
true,
can't
especially
imagine why
if they're
they'd
trying
want
to
to
do some kind
retheme
of
it
reboot of the series as well. I
of
can't.
Battlestar Galactica, like the full series. What do you mean? Oh, you're saying Battlestar Galactica is rebooting the series?
Yeah, I've heard rumors that they're doing a reboot of the series, and so if that's true, then I can't imagine they would let the rights out for a reprint of the old game if they want
Gotcha.
to do stuff. But again, that's
Makes
all
sense.
supposition.
Yeah, because
But
I mean, Arkham is a good theme. Maybe the success of Arkham Horror, the card game, is enough for them to try that. But I mean, Battlestar Galactica as a theme, that is talk about a theme that matches the game. That was solid.
yeah, I can only assume that I mean, because it's Arkham's all Cthulhu, yes, is that
Yes.
right? So I mean, Cthulhu's free.
Yeah, but if we're playing, I mean, there's no genre in which you're wondering if I'm Cthulhu. Like, wait a second, are you Cthulhu? Because I don't see those tentacles under that face mask over there.
Well, I would assume I would assume the idea is are you a cultist or not? But I am going to start asking people now. I'm at
You
rapid
take
fire.
off your red hooded cloak and tell me if you're a cultist.
Yes, but yeah. So I don't know, but yeah, I think I think that's part of why I liked the original BSGs because that is one of the first games that I played that really felt like they nailed the theme.
They absolutely nailed it. I mean, the BSG is not a game I ever got rid of because the game itself wasn't good. It was an incredible experience, an incredible game. For me, I got rid of it over time because I found that as good as the game was, it took like 50 minutes to teach new players. And it was hard to get new people into the game. And so once our core group exhausted it to an extent, meaning we played it and then like people shifted around, we had new people. It's a game I never brought out when teaching new people because the combination of a 50-minute teach and then being stuck in a 3.5 hour long hidden role game where you might be discovered in the first 20 minutes and you have to like lie to people's faces the whole time. We found it was stressful for new players and a lot of investment to teach new people. But like the idea of playing that game with people who know the game, that I mean, I'd be down for that anytime. It's just a solid experience.
And that was one of the first earlier hobby games that I played. Really got into, and that just blew my mind. I was like, wait a minute, wait. What do you mean you're lying to me? Wait, I'm lying to you? Oh, I'm lying. Oh shit, I'm lying. Am I lying? I think I'm supposed to be lying. Okay,
Oh my
and
gosh, it's such a good game.
and just the kind of the whole social kind of experiment that goes with it. But like for me, the dangers of that game of playing because some people don't lie. I mean, we're not really
Yeah.
like obviously you're playing a game, but some people
Yeah, I know,
don't.
but some people
They
just don't like the
like
stress of it. They don't like it.
Yeah, they don't.
It's
And the people who get mad, like you've been lying to me. Yes, I've been
you're like,
lying to
that's
you.
the game.
Like
That's the
it says
game. We
here on
literally
the
told.
card. It says I'm a traitor. I follow the rules.
It's surprisingly hard to win as a Cylon if I'm not allowed to lie. Yeah, no, lying hidden role games are always a fascinating. But that goes back to what I said, like the combination of the 50-minute teach plus that stress for people is why I got rid of a game that otherwise I think is excellent. The implementation, the combination of the hidden role, the combination of trying to exercise your options on the ship, sending out your fighters, attacking the Cylons, dealing with it. It really captured the feeling of the show while capturing the mechanics of the game in such a solid implementation all around. That's why like the idea of a retheme just it feels like a mistake. Even if it might be that they have to do, but it still feels off.
Maybe if they do Arkham in space with just a big old wink.
Yes.
The second A is looks like an eye going.
Yeah, that could work. That could work.
Yeah, and it's just kind of the thing that I loved so much about it, and I don't actually own it, but I would play it in a second. Is the kind of that decision space, especially when you are one of the traders, one of the Cylons, of knowing that I have to screw myself over sometimes to make them think that I'm with them, just to try to find the exact perfect moment to really screw everybody over. It's just so much fun.
Yeah, it's. I mean, and then there's like that second phase in the game where suddenly and that's one of the things that's interesting about the game because you have to balance being too efficient in the first half of the game because you may find yourself a Cylon in the second half, and that completely changes. Like you have to really have to save the ship, but also leave just enough room for things to go wrong in case it turns out I'm a Cylon. It was like an interesting balance and a twist. And did you ever play with the expansions? I never got the expansions to the table.
So some of them, pretty much when because a friend of mine has not all of it, but a lot of it. Actually, but another buddy of mine does actually have all of it. But we almost always play with the new Caprica expansion, where you actually go to the planet and you have to get yourself off the planet and then jump one more time. It lengthens the game. It makes it harder for the humans to win. I think it makes it harder for them. And the Pegasus board, we'll almost always play with that one, which makes it easier for the humans to win. But just it makes the game. Yeah, it makes the game a little longer. Sometimes we'll play with where you can be like the Cylon fleet commander or whatever the heck it is, where at the very beginning that you are a Cylon and you're the leader of the Cylons, but you might be a Cylon that wants the humans to live, or you might be a Cylon that wants them all to die, or so it's another layer of, even when you know that they are the bad guy, are they really the bad guy? Or maybe they're the bad guy, but they're not as bad as you want them to be, kind of thing, all mixed in there. Those are the ones I played with. I never played with any of the last ones. Everything I'd always heard was the last expansions were,
Gotcha.
I don't know.
Yeah, I never had the opportunity. I got it. I don't remember when I got it. Did I get it before? Now I'm wondering if I got it when it was already out of print. No, I didn't. I got it before it was out of print for sure. Because I remember, oh my gosh, this goes back to like, those things, those moments of in time where I remember like there were multiple times where it was available for like $25 on sale. And like, you're like, in hindsight, you're like, I should have bought 100 of those because that game goes for like $100 now.
Yeah, I just saw someone selling all the expansions and the base game on Facebook, and the base game was damaged, like damaged box. The plays fine, whatever.
Sure.
But for like $800, and nobody in there was like, only one or two people like $800. Like people, like, oh yeah, that's what it goes for.
It's not the craziest price. Some of those expansions go for like $200 a pop. It's I mean, again, this is just the concept of, perfect information. Heck, if once I have that, I may as well just invest in Starbucks when it first opened, or Bitcoin.
But just, buy 30 shares of Starbucks and
call it a day.
Copies of Battlestar Galactica, and you can retire.
Yeah, it's Battlestar Galactica. It was. How often do you still break it out? Speaking of Cult of the New, playing it or whatnot. Pre-COVID, forget COVID. I'll give you a full pass for the past year.
It depends on who's around. One of my other jobs is in theater, and it used to be it just happened to be in the show that I was just directing it, but a bunch of the actors were gamer type people who liked the TV show, and so and a buddy of mine who actually has all of it, he happened to work at Microsoft, and Microsoft's right near the theater, and so on Saturdays when we were on dinner break or before or after rehearsal, we would sometimes go over, get a conference room in Microsoft, and just play. And so we'd play, like, I was playing, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a year. Now I haven't played in a while because people moved away and all of that. But in general, once this is back over, I would venture to say I will wind up playing it, once a year or so. And I'd be happy to do it like twice a year. It's a long.
Yeah,
it's a day.
That's what I'm saying. I know Battlestar Galactica. There are some games you don't need to play a lot. Battlestar Galactica is definitely one of them. It's a game that if you play Battlestar Galactica once or twice a year, as long as you're not spending a whole day remembering the rules each time. Like Mage Knight is going to be that for me. Speaking of my older games that I love, Mage Knight is a game that I get to the table once a year, and I keep it every single time I go through a purge because I look at it and I'm like, but that was a fun game, man. That was a fun game. It was a solid experience, and it's enough. And other games you look at and you're like, well, that wasn't worth it for a game I'm going to play once a year. Everything's going to be variable. Everything's contextual.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing with the whole it's kind of the cult of the new. And my big passion is, one of my big passions in games is dungeon crawls. Well, dungeon crawls take up a lot of freaking space, and so I kind of have to decide, like, how long is Alter Quest going to stay? When I play through the second campaign all the way, am I still going to want to keep the whole thing? It would be fair if I play through both campaigns and a couple others, like, that's 80 hours of game.
It's a lot of content. Yeah.
Yeah, that's well worth what the time I put in. But when Oathsworn comes in.
Oh man, I just played Oathsworn yesterday.
What? How?
Yeah, TTS.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I was going to come right through this computer and shake.
No, I'm not that good. I don't think it's in production yet. It's in production. It's not. There's no copies in the physical. I guess there's prototypes. Michael Kelly. Speaking of Michael Kelly, I think he played it. King of Ravage played it. I don't know who else had prototypes. But
no, Michael only had TTS. That's all he got to do with it.
Oh, really? Oh, interesting. So, and then maybe the King of Ravage didn't have. I don't know what he had then. But anyways, in any case, whatever it was. I reached out to. I did a while ago. I did a video on why I backed Oathsworn a few months ago, and the pledge manager already closed. I did the video before the pledge manager closed. It's like a last hurrah, so people can jump in if they wanted to. And the publisher, or whatever, the Shadowborn Games reached out to me and said, "Hey, I know that the pledge manager is closed. This isn't a marketing thing. This is just, we'd love to sit down, talk, and play some games with you." And so I kept getting pushed off because of the nature of prioritizing. Because back to the cult of the new, the nature of. I frequently have to play games both in person and on TTS because there's a campaign coming up, because there's something to come up. And this was just like, hey, let's just hang out and play games. So I kept on pushing it off, but we finally managed to get a game in yesterday, in fact. And it was, I will say this, I'll say 2 things. I had a horrible experience playing it, and I am so excited to get my copy. which means to say that falls into the category of one of a few games where I think the TTS gameplay was really not for me. I did not like the TTS gameplay at all. Way too many token management, way too tedious. I didn't have a full understanding of the game because it was taught pretty quickly to get everyone up to speed. And so I was still constantly just messing around with things. But everything I saw, I liked. Like, I'm really excited to get my pledge. It happens to be the actual gameplay was just like a ton of management stuff or whatnot. But yeah, solid game. If you backed it, be excited.
Yeah, and I'm proud of myself. I did not get all the extra miniatures.
Good for you.
I did not get the changeable arms for the heroes. And I did that with a thought to space.
Yeah.
That's what I did. I was like, maybe I can hold on to it, but I got that sitting there. And, I thankfully my buddy had Gloomhaven, and we finished it. And you could not imagine how fast I had that box in his car. I mean,
With Oathsworn, I didn't even know this when I backed it, but like I believe, if I recall correctly from yesterday's conversation, I believe they have one-shot adventures. I mean, you could go through it as a narrative experience like Gloomhaven. Like, I think it's like almost a combination of Gloomhaven and Kingdom Death Monster in the way it plays and the structure.
Yeah,
of
it's
the
kind of
game.
got like a long narrative and picking where you go, but
yeah,
it's just boss fights.
Yes, you can single shot the boss fights if I believe. I mean, I know you could for sure, and I believe they're setting up specifically similar to Primal, which I mentioned as well. They're going to give you the opportunity.
Primal. Did you like Primal?
Yeah.
Are you interested?
Oh,
Primal?
I loved Primal. Absolutely love Primal.
I don't think we've gotten
I talked about it. So it's, oh my gosh. I mean, like, it's like, here's how it works. For me, my favorite Kickstarter in 2020, speaking of Cult of the New, which is horrible people, it is our fault. I take it back. It is our fault. Speaking of my favorite Kickstarter in 2020 was Endless Winter. That is the game I'm most excited to get. And part of that, by the way, is the accessibility. It's not that there's other games I've played that were potentially better to some degree, but like Endless Winter is a combination of an amazing game that I will get to the table because it's a simple Euro game you play in 90 minutes, and that does factor into my hype for it. For me,
I wish I could reach back and grab the prototype, but I had to send it off.
That was, oh my gosh. There's like 5 prototypes I played in 2020 that I actually would have loved to keep playing, and I had to send all of them away. Meanwhile, my attic has like 10 other prototypes that I'd have no interest in playing again at all. And to be clear, not that the game is bad, but a game has to be particularly good for me to want to play the prototype instead of just waiting for the real thing.
Yeah, I got 2 prototypes that I still regularly play. I have a Merchant's Cove prototype.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And I have this game failed its funding. They're going to come back, but this game, Theurgy.
Interesting. Never heard of it.
That's the problem. No one's heard of it. That I play all the time. I think it's one of the best area control games out there because you are done in 90 minutes.
Nice.
Done.
Well, I'll pay attention.
And my wife and I still regularly play Lines of Lydia.
Lines of Lydia. I actually just got my hands on that. The prototype. I got my hand. So I didn't cover it during the campaign. When Quackalope last visited me, he brought me a handful of prototypes that he was kind of done with that I expressed interest in. And he's like, oh yeah, I have these 10 prototypes. Any of them capture your attention? I was like, Lines of Lydia, Johnny Pack. I want to play that one. So he brought that over, and I have not actually played it, but I'm glad to hear you played it, even though it's a prototype.
Yeah, no, my wife and I, we that one came in. That one weaseled its way in at number 10 on my most played games of the year. Nice. And my wife was gone all of November through December. So like it just sat on the shelf because there's no solo of that.
But yeah, Primal. So it is early in the year to say this, but there is a decent chance that Primal will be my number 1 Kickstarter of 2021, and it's literally like 2 weeks into 2021. But I'm really enjoying.
You're calling that really early.
No, I'm not. I'm saying there's a decent chance. I'm gauging up. If I had to gauge, oh man, what would win, Primal or Endless Winter? I think Endless Winter would win.
Well, that's easy because Endless Winter was last year.
No, I understand. I'm saying if I were measuring it, but that's my grading system for why I think Primal has a decent chance of being my 2021 winner. Because when I think about my 2020 picks, it's head to head with Endless Winter, and I'd have a hard time choosing either. Very different fields that they're playing in.
So when we're talking about kind of the cult of the new idea, so when you pick your best Kickstarter of the year, what does that mean to you? Because it's not. I mean, it's not the game. Because there's a decent chance that Oathsworn won't even be here.
Correct. So when I put together a video of my top 10 Kickstarters of 2021, and it was a combination of everything. And I think I said pretty clearly, I was like, I'm just making up what goes into this formula here. There's no formula. I just decided to rank them because some of these I played, some of them I haven't played. And so I did put most of the ones I played higher up, but there were exceptions because to me, 2021, the best Kickstarter to me is just what am I most excited about? What did I consider to be the most exciting in some way, sense, or form? Endless Winter came in at number one. I think Massive Darkness came in at number two. With along with Dead Reckoning. Dead Reckoning I've played as well. Massive Darkness was a combination of playing the original plus liking the changes they showed. So to me, it's just about my own personal hype level, and almost automatically a game I played has a higher chance of being up that track because
because
I
it's good.
actually played it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be curious. So I did not back the new Massive Darkness,
Mhm.
and I'm proud of myself.
I'm proud of you. I mean, there's so many games. The ones there's like I have Oathsworn coming. I have Madara coming. I
My
managed to
gosh, I
pass.
have Madara coming too. I just reached out in the blue, just totally in the blue, reached out and said, "Hey, can I get a review copy?" Like, sure. I was like,
Oh dear
you
Lord,
know, but as
it's
I was typing, trying to play it cool,
yeah, no, it's so hard. The amount of games I have coming, like Aeon's Trespass Odyssey, I managed to hold back off of, like, because I got Ultimate at the time, and I was like, I just like I had to like. There's a certain point where you just cap out of. There's a decent amount of games that may well come that I will get rid of. It's just at a certain point I'm gonna have to say I was this excited then, but I'm this excited now. And again, I tend to back these Kickstarters that hold their value. Like the idea of if I get Madara when Madara arrives, even if I decide I don't want to play it, it'll sell for what I paid for it and more. I'm not worried about that. And that's the thing. I like the journey too. I like the process of the journey, the discovery, the back in the game, the being excited about the game. Even if I never play the game, I bought myself enjoyment along the way and didn't even lose money at the end of it, which is that's one of the reasons I look at Kickstarter that way.
Yeah, one of the fun things I think about chip theory games is Kickstarters. Like
Mhm.
they have fun Kickstarters.
Yeah.
Like like I think of like Too Many Bones. They have little stories that they're telling you, and it's just a Google form that you're clicking on, but like we're voting on stuff and we're
Yeah.
determining the story, and it's just fun, and so that kind of becomes part of that experience, which doesn't always bleed into the game being fun. Sometimes the campaign's way more fun than the game.
Yeah.
Um, but
I like
I think that's part of
yeah.
it. I think that's also, I said earlier, kind of Kickstarter is a little bit to blame for the cult of the new, but it's that whole experience because, with the exception of like the come-ons who just, they can put anything up there and make $1 million.
Yeah.
Like the competition for backers is so harsh. It's so tight, and that's the things that people have to come up with to get people engaged. Because you're not really going to succeed again unless you're like, come on, unless if I'm running this campaign, if you on your own are going to go out and then start pushing it because you are excited. The only way you're going to do that is you got to do something clever, which is
But
very
that's
fast.
I think it's actually I think there's a lot of room for I mean this is drifting from our conversation entirely, but I think there's a lot of room for Kickstarters to succeed. They have to put the work in, and unfortunately or fortunately, depending how you look at it, the work no longer consists of simply putting up a good product. I think a big part of the work is the community building. If you're Come On, if you're Awakened Realms, if you're Mythic, you've built up that community and you can do what you want. But I can point to dozens of games that have done phenomenally well. Endless Winter, Primal, Townsfolk Tussle. I'd have to like pull through more. What's that game that the oh my gosh, the cooperative 4X game?
Uprising.
Uprising. These are all companies that did phenomenally well for the first Kickstarter. And one thing they all had in common is their games and their communities were well above 6 months in advance of the Kickstarter. They started building up that community from day one. You throw a game on Kickstarter and hope it funds. I mean, you might fund, you might not, but you're suddenly relying on just the facet of is your game good. You're not getting people invested well before your Kickstarter ever launches. If
Yeah,
there's
and
one thing,
it
yeah,
even becomes part of it. Like if you haven't done that, that's a now almost a red flag.
yeah,
Like
and it should be to an extent. I mean, like
I think of
it's
Ping Yao that's out there, which is
yeah,
and they funded now, and I've said, I mean, if that's not one of my top Euro games of the year, assuming I mean it's supposed to deliver this year, but
yeah.
if it does, I'll be shocked if it's not. But it's struggling because the Jing studio didn't start building community until 3
Well,
weeks prior to launch.
yeah, it showed up on Kickstarter. It looks okay. It doesn't look amazing. It's a little bit pricey too. And there's despite the fact that there's a million content creators saying how much they enjoyed it, yourself included. I saw your forum post as well as your review. There's a lot of people who seem to really enjoy that game, but it's not. Content creators are just one part of a multifaceted equation of how to make a successful Kickstarter. And it's not an easy answer. It's not like here's this checklist of 10 things to do. It's here's this checklist of 10 serious areas of homework, work, and investment. But the more I was talking to a friend like a few months ago about how it used to be when you were a service provider. He's a locksmith. It used to be a locksmith. You just put your phone number in the phone book. People called you, did good work, and you moved on. But now there's all these games you have to play. Now you have to sit there and be on Angie's List. You have to sit there and put your stuff. You have to put your Google marketing up. You can no longer just be a locksmith. You have to actually like know a bunch of other stuff to be competitive. And that's the nature of any space. The more competition there is, the more you have to become an expert at the thing you weren't trying to be an expert at in order to succeed.
Is BoardGameCo sponsored by a local locksmith? Because
Board
if
Game
they're
Co. is
not,
sponsored by a local locksmith. No,
because if you're not, he is missing out on dozens of views per week.
yeah, he's a local locksmith. I don't know how many of my views come from Cleveland, Ohio.
4.
4 exactly. But yeah, no, it's a fascinating thing. This concept that we have to be experts. And this will apply to content creation too, by the way. I mean, to be a content creator as well is no longer just about, hey, I can talk well about this game or review this game well. There's things you need to learn to sit there and figure out how to actually not just be good at what you do, but get people to recognize you and know you, because doesn't matter how good Ping Yao is if people aren't buying it. That's the sad reality of things. And don't get me wrong, between you and Man vs. Meeple saying it's definitely adding to his collection, it's completing with Trois and Lorenzo Magnifico. I mean, I'm tempted by Ping Yao, but like I feel like I have a
Why haven't you backed it while I was talking? Come on.
because it's like a 2-week burst of attention of I mean, there's like 400 people backing it. Like I'm torn. I think it'll be a good game, and I love Trois. Trois is in my top 50 of all time. Lorenzo's just outside it, but I mean, it's just the problem is they didn't give me months and months to build up my hype and my interest. If I just hold firm for another week, then it'll be off my radar again. And I'm always trying to not back things more than I'm trying to back them.
Yeah, I think that my buddy who at a year or so ago, maybe a little more than that, we were definitely enablers of each other. But now we finally we flipped it. Now it's first thing when one of us backs a Kickstarter, within 5 minutes there'll be a text that'll just be like,
Why?
oh, for anybody who's just listening, it's just me shaking my head disgustedly. Like when you find one of those gifs, you get one of those gifts, and that's what it is. And then usually we then have to defend our choice to each other. And the other one, we will do our very best to poke as many holes in it as we can, because we don't have space for stuff. Even if we have the money at the moment, we don't have the space.
I have this deal with one of my Patreons who we frequently go back and forth of like, we're like, okay, I won't back the game if you don't, and we do that all the time. And then like the last time we did that, I basically said, hey, I can get a TTS session with the designer. You want to join me? And he did, and then we both proceeded to back it together. So we're both enablers and convincers at the same time. We toe that line.
Yeah, well, and that's actually, it's kind of been, and actually for anybody listening, like I fully recommend finding someone else in the hobby to try to talk each other out of it, because then when we do back something, like we are fully confident and we haven't been wrong yet. Like we haven't gotten something come in and we've been like, well, that's disappointing that we'd actually
You
had
haven't
done that.
you haven't been disappointed by Kickstarters yet?
Oh no, plenty.
Okay, I was a little confused by that.
But not that we've had that process. Since we've done that, you know,
Gotcha.
the impulse backs have gone down, and it's literally just because like I don't want to see his text. Stop and think about it. And so it's not that we have very different tastes. Like some of his favorite games are Scythe and Rising Sun, and I recognize the impressive mechanics and interesting things those games do. But okay,
Yeah.
I will play it if you want to, sure. But I'm never gonna say, oh my gosh, like I have a day off. Can we play Rising Sun? Never gonna happen ever. And I can't play Blood Rage anymore. Circling back to what you said earlier, because we played it once, and I whooped everyone's butt, so I can never play again because it's never going to be that good again.
Okay, if I ever show up in California, we'll play Blood Rage, and I'll whoop your butt, and you can play it. Oh, you're saying. Oh, interesting. You're saying I was jumping. You're saying it was never going to be as good again. Not you found it like boring and uninteresting because you destroyed them. Got it. Okay, yeah, I can't help with that.
Yeah, no, I'm never going to do that well again. Like just read the tables, like, oh, that's a cool strategy. That's working. I'm stealing it. Like just that kind of stuff, and just doing it. But so But because we have such different tastes, as we we're able to then kind of really easier for me to zoom in on like if this might be a problem with this game you're looking at. Like, have you thought about how the combat's done or like whatever it is? Because it's so easy to get your blinders, like the movie with the Massive Darkness 2. Like that was almost like, yes, take my money. But I really had to stop and look close. Okay, now do I really like that? Do I really, those kinds of things?
Yes, yes, and yes. The pledge manager is still open. Go. You can hold off.
I will hold off. You go play Ping Yao on TTS though.
Oh, I'm down for that. I'd play it on TTS.
Yeah,
Interesting. You're right. It is on TTS. I should do that, or I
yeah,
shouldn't.
yeah. You should. It's a pretty good. It's a pretty good mod.
Nice.
It's not the best mod I've seen is the Merchant's Cove one that they just released. That's an amazing mod. Like
Nice.
the people they had do that, like it just everything snaps into place and stuff will like slide and like pop up and it's very impressive. But the Ping Yao one's pretty good. What I should do is I should put you in touch with Tyler. Maybe you can get on his if you do it quick, get on his Friday live stream of the game, and because he's keeping a tracking scoreboard and whatever the top 3 content creator scores are going to get I think pledges to give away to their people.
This is for Ping
Yeah,
Yao or for?
Ping Yao.
Oh, I'm potentially interested depending on time.
Yeah. When we're done, I'll shoot you about the. No one cares about this. I'll cut this part out, but I'll shoot you a message on this afterwards.
Sure.
But anyhow, so it sounds like we are both in the cult of the new, and we are enablers of the cult of the new, and we want to pretend that we want to play old games.
No. I am in the cult of the new, and I am an enabler of the cult of the new. Both those things are true. But behind the scenes, on my app and my private life, 70% of my gaming is older games. I just don't talk about it as much because it's not the thing that gets the eyes. I talk about it a little, but not as much.
Okay, yeah, okay, all right. I'll buy that. Very easy to say when there's no evidence.
I would. Let me hold up to those who don't know what's going on. I'm pulling up my little stats, my insights for 2020, and I have to go in my top 20. Let's go rattle through it. We have One Element World, Cthulhu Death May Die, Codenames Duet, Brews, Sprawlopolis, Tax, Circle the Wagon, Zombie Kids, The Crew. Oh, The Crew is technically 2020, isn't it? Fine. Cockroach Poker, Charterstone, The Resistance, Kingdom Rush, that's so new. Marvel Champions, Watergate, Zombicide, Black Plague, Machiko Legacy, Blitzkrieg, Pandemic Legacy, Brave Rats, Innis, Bunny Kingdom, The Game, Mass Transit. Mass Transit actually is a Kickstarter that's not out. That's a prototype I went through a lot. Rajas of the Ganjas, Cross Clues. I mean, if you go through this list, a vast majority of my most played games are older stuff. I just love the new stuff, but it filters in, and then some of it sticks around, some of it goes away. The thing that makes me really sad are the things that I'm hyped about today. The new stuff that I'm hyped about. I'm like, that's so good. And then 3 years from now, it was good. It wasn't so good. It was good, and that will happen. And I think that's what the process of creating a collection is. It's the nature of going through all the new stuff, finding all the things you like, and then as time goes on, some of it goes away and some of it filters into place. It's like I mean, in a weird, depressing way, it's kind of like Tetris, that you keep clearing out these rows one at a time of things that go away, and then every once in a while something sticks. And then if enough things stick, you don't have enough space in your collection anymore.
Yeah,
exactly.
Wait. So it only sticks when you've made a mistake.
That's what I'm saying.
If you make enough mistakes, you die.
If you make enough mistakes, you don't have enough room on your screen. That's what it is. It's a constant challenge to figure out how to make space and keep the screen. It'll work. This metaphor, maybe.
Yeah, go back to Kingdom Rush. I think Kingdom Rush is doing the polyomino better. So the last thing I'll leave you with, if it is true that Battlestar Galactica comes back as some kind of Arkham whatever,
yeah,
are you in or are you skeptical?
I'm skeptical, 100%. I think Battlestar is an excellent game, but I am skeptical that a re-implementation of the theme would in any way be an improvement. I'd have to have the rave reviews come in. I'll watch your review. I'll see how it goes.
I hope they send me one. You kidding?
Yeah.
You know how many views I would get?
It's not that I won't get it. It's not that I won't try it. It's that I'm walking in skeptical. It's a re-theme that doesn't make sense to me, even if it needed to be done.
Yeah, and I'm with you. And that's mostly because I'm neutral on Cthulhu. Like whatever. I don't like or dislike. I mean, stuff I've learned about Lovecraft himself, I don't like, but I appreciate that deep horror.
Mythos.
Yeah, and I appreciate the world building, and some of my friends just live and die and breathe it. Like we went to a convention, and a buddy was going to run a Cthulhu game, a Call of Cthulhu game. He's like, "Come play." I'm like, "All right, sure, whatever, I'm in." And we're going through and all this stuff. And we found a book and going on. I was like, "Can we guys burn the book?" And I'm like, "No, all this stuff." I was like, "No, why don't we just burn the book?" And then finally we finished, and everybody died. Is how it ended. We killed the thing, but like everyone died. And later I was like, my buddy Richard was like, "Richard, what would happen if we would just burn the book?" He's like, "Oh, you would have won because that was it." I was like, "See, just burn the book. You find an evil book,
You burn it.
Like, I feel like that is life lesson number 2. You know,
Don't open things that shouldn't be opened.
yeah, yeah. But the point is, I just don't. It doesn't excite me like Battlestar Galactica excited me because I like the show and all of that. So
Wait. We can apply this. We can take that metaphor. So we're talking about the cult of the new, right? And you're talking about burning the book because something new, you never really know what's going to be in it. You can sit there and you can play your favorite game of all time, whatever it is. You can play your second favorite game, your third favorite game, whatever it is of all time. Or you can buy that new game that might be amazing, or it might be a horrific monster that eats you.
go back primal. Is I think we're going, but yeah. So anyhow, we've gone way long on this session. I know you have kids to wrangle and
Yeah.
bathe or whatever you have to do with kids. But thank you for taking the time to come on. If you want to leave our 2 remaining people still watching after 2 hours with a word or 5 of wisdom, what do you got for them?
That's a good question. I would go with enjoy the cult of the new, enjoy the hype, enjoy all the stuff that comes along with it, but also understand for yourself what it really is for you. Is it constantly a journey of new things and you're getting rid of them because you're always playing the new things, you're not playing the old? Or do you like the combination, in which case, make sure you're doing the combination? Something I did in a recent video is the idea of just, I don't really care what decisions people make, but act with intent. Don't lie to yourself. If you're only playing the new things, play them, sell them, play the new things, sell them, move on. There's nothing wrong with that. Or just make sure you're getting a healthy mix. Play those games you love and also play the new stuff. Just act with intent and know what you want to do.
Yeah, that's a great one. The only thing I'd actually add to that is, when these exciting campaigns come up, like Primal. I'm teasing Alex for
Yeah.
because of it, but it is a big deal and it is exciting. But just take the time and do that little bit of research.
Yeah.
Read the rule book if you're a reader. Watch a couple
Playthroughs.
of different reviews. Definitely watch a playthrough, and just make sure that you want it because none of these Kickstarters are cheap.
Yeah. And Primal is expensive. Like I'm hyped about it. Do not get me wrong. But I got a good question recently from someone said, one of my viewers said to me, if you hadn't played it, would you be backing it? And the answer was yes. But I did have to pause first. I had to think about it and process that. And you're in my shoes. You're not in my shoes. You're in my hypothetical shoes as someone who didn't play it and have to make a decision with that. Just because I love it doesn't mean you will.
Yeah, and it's so Cult of the New is fun and exciting, but cult has also got a negative connotation for a reason. So just make sure you got that third Cthulhu eye open. Does Cthulhu have 3 eyes? I don't think he has.
I have no idea. I'm not a Cthulhu expert by any means.
Don't at us, Lovecraft fans. We will learn. But anyhow, thank you so much for joining me today for a very long time. And everyone else, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
I only want to be in the games I really love. I don't want to be in all the games. I want to be in like a handful of games. And I wouldn't mind being in Primal. You got to put in your time. You can't just like pop up for 2 years and then complain that you're not like making a living. And I'm fine with that. I'm enjoying it. I'm having an absolute blast, which is why I keep doing this.
Out of your mind with a daily video, like I've committed to every Wednesday, and I put out way more than one a week. But
yeah,
as long as I get every Wednesday, I'm fulfilling my contractual obligation to
yourself,
the gaming gods, right? I mean, I take money for other stuff. Like,
yeah,
if I want to play through, absolutely pay me some money, because the amount of editing on a playthrough is huge.
It's a lot of work.
And then same thing for how to play videos, which I'm trying to become the poor man's Rodney Smith, like the homeless man's Rodney Smith. That's what I'm trying to be.